what's an insider take on the medical industry from an entrepreneurial lens? Is it something that should be disrupted and broken apart?
I think it's already happening. I think people are already taking it upon themselves and saying, but why can I do that? It's a lot of people just like standing up and saying, but who said we can't do that? And that's why the businesses are flourishing, because a lot of the patients are actually agreeing with them. It really just goes down to, are people buying this? And how else can we keep doing this? I just don't see regulatory officials just saying, nope, we don't want this to happen anymore. Everybody just go to the hospital.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, Hennesys.
Thank you for having me here. I'm excited.
One of the things I definitely want to pick your brain about is you went after probably one of the most difficult types of entrepreneurship to start, which is building a physical product. It's a lot more expensive. It takes a lot more effort to prototype. You can't just write some code, see how it works, and then change the code. You're actually physically manufacturing a product. Did you have experience in how to get a product manufactured and built? I mean, what was that like?
Yeah. So I wanted to learn a little bit about manufacturing here in the US because I do like making things. So that's just something that in general, I always used to like sit around and either sketch something or dream up something. Like I have an interesting imagination. Like I love building stories. So the idea of building a product was the same thing, right? It's tangible now. So I definitely did email a lot of people, and it's like a kid in a candy store, right? When people walk into a place where they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is so cool." Like I don't know why I felt that way about like warehouses and like supply chain and all of those things, but I knew that it was my thing because I was like, everything is so organized. Like my brain works this way, right? So yeah, I think that
What
it
are the
was just
steps to go into being a hardware entrepreneur? I mean, you touched on it a little bit, but like if I wanted to start manufacturing a product today,
yeah.
what do I do? Where do I start?
So what is it first, right? What are you trying to make? And then you can seek out um, a lot of the technicians now, like in manufacturing facilities, have substitutes. So let's say you're trying to make something out of resin, and they're like, "Oh, you could just 3D print that. You don't need to be making this stuff and pouring it and mixing any chemicals. There's an easier way of doing that." Now, it's probably a little more expensive because you might need to hire someone to design that file. So you might need an engineer, and then it's like maybe there's certain specifications. And then let's say if now you want whatever this is, let's say it's a ring to be inside of a hospital and on a patient, all of a sudden you've got to go through some regulatory. What do you mean? Why is this on a patient? Maybe it I don't know, it helps read temperature. So now all of a sudden, now we're getting into like regulatory of like, okay, so what if something goes wrong with this? What if this overheats? And what is there a technology in it? So the first thing is, what is it? And then even if it's like a sketch, just find a way to build it. I think the first thing
Like
I
you
did was
yourself build
literally
it?
that. Yeah, there were a few things that I say that because I've got like 4 of them in storage now. They're all different and all different material, but, um, it's worth it. Like, you learn a lot, and then you start talking to
So like
people, and
you're
that's
gluing together pieces and like going to what fabric stores and buying random just or hardware stores and just buying random things and like welding and soldering or like how I mean, maybe describe
yeah.
ArmHug and how you actually prototyped the first four and just like what was that process?
Yeah, so for ArmHug, it was, the name came from essentially think of an armrest that you would put anywhere, on someone, let's say on someone's lap or on a table, and then you would rest your arm on it. So the idea was this armrest would hug your arm. So it became the name kind of resonated with it. Okay, so let's call it arm hug. Um, So what we did was I remember I was working at the time and I would ask my colleagues, like, what do you guys think of this? Start asking people, sketching it, definitely made out of paper. Um, and then moved up to like going to the craft store, like cardboard, gluing things together. Like if you're gonna have someone professionally try to break this down with you, you do need to have a prototype. And it could be ugly, for lack of a better word, because we all want it to be perfect. It needs to be perfect before. It goes through so many stages of iterations, and people fall in love with the product along the way. There was an engineer I worked with. He was more in love with it than I was at the time. I was like, "Oh my goodness, okay. We just we need to be done. Like, we need to somewhere put the end goal flag. Okay. No more changes after this because you can have so much fun just changing it, color, size. Yeah, never ending."
So you've got a paper prototype, right? You're kind of just cobbling it together. You then say, okay, I kind of have a rough shape or idea of what this is going to be. Then you get an engineer. What type of engineer? Where do you find them? How do you know if they're good? Like, what's that? Because this is a physical or a product engineer, right?
Right.
Someone who's building a prototype.
So, yeah, I looked up injection molding companies and companies that did like large manufacturing. So essentially, the product was going to be about 12 inches tall. I think that's the right way of describing it. So that's considered large. I think anything smaller than that, you can 3D print. Um, and you have and if you're looking for like shops that do 3D printing, there's a lot more now. There's even one actually in the local library. They have a workshop where you can learn 3D printing and like, I was just, what? Really? So pretty cool. Um, and so with this, I lost my train of thought. I guess I want to say like with the actual um paper model that you've created, let's say, you can Google like manufacturers, and I mean like literally like plastic manufacturing. It could be made of plastic, it could be made of um there's a few other tools because it gets really, really expensive. But if you say like plastic manufacturing, you're gonna get a list and a bunch of people pop up to reach out to. And then they set you up with like a CAD designer to try to see if we can make what you're thinking about real to them because they need to 3D model it. They need to see what it looks like, density. Let's see the thickness of this material. Let's look into like maybe how much it would cost like per volume. Let's say you wanted just one. They're probably going to be like, okay, we could give you a sample. But then we're looking to do, 10,000 of these,
So
if
weighing
that
all
makes
the,
sense.
yeah, no, absolutely. So kind of got your physical prototype, the paper one, right? And then you start finding manufacturers, you start talking to CAD designers. They think about what's the structural integrity of this thickness or this
Right.
size and the price of this and the cost to ship. So, you know, you go through this process, you go through this journey, you arrive at a final destination. We've got a product, we've got a price, we've got maybe you order, I don't know, do you order you order 500? How do you go from that to actually being an entrepreneur, which is in business, actually a business that makes money? How did you get your first customer?
Yeah. So one of the things with that product was finding the right customers that were going to use it. So we learned something about what other things people were using the product with. And so that product right now, we're currently going through a stage where it's like we want to find better product manufacturers, and that might not be in the US. So we hear a lot about people going overseas and finding better prices, like budget wise for a startup. But essentially, we started thinking about what's inside of it, and we found that need we could fulfill sooner, and it was cheaper. So we had this like 2 product thing kind of happen. So we have one, which is the ArmHug where you can store items inside of it. Then we learned about the items inside of it and we said, these this is interesting. These are disposables and they're cheaper. So what started to happen was the disposables that were cheaper were something that people would pay a lot more now, as opposed to us just manufacturing, let's say 10,000 of these, and then they'll be sitting at the warehouse. So what we did was we leveraged the fact that people need the items inside of it, and then we're using that money and then reinvesting it to build the arm hook, which is crazy. You don't think like I would need 2 to make 1 and then I could do both, but it's leveraging what you know about what your customer needs.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it kind of ties back to what we are talking about earlier of often the thing that makes the money or that has the success or does better is not always a direct path forward of, oh, I'm selling arm hugs and that's the main profit driver. Actually the replaceable part inside of it that you can make more profit on because it's gives you that kind of ongoing revenue stream. What
Yeah.
would you if you were to start a new product today, is there anything that you would do differently in the physical product space, a different approach or a different tactic? Or would you say that you'd kind of follow the same journey and prototype it the way you did previously?
I don't know. It's sometimes even being an entrepreneur, people are like, "Oh, you probably thought about your next company already," and it's like, "Ah, I'm trying to get through this one." I really don't know. I think the reason why I was drawn to healthcare was obviously it focused a lot on people, and I really like that community aspect of it. Um, but yeah, I really can't say like what my next venture would be. I'm also scared of what I'll say.
I think that's a bit of the nature of the entrepreneur is you don't quite know where you're going to lead and you kind of follow your nose to some degree, but ideally it hopefully goes in a good direction.
Yeah, right.
So in this journey, give us some idea of where you are right now in terms of company size and revenue. I know you mentioned 5 years
Yeah,
you've been doing this, but where is ArmHug today?
yeah. So I think COVID really exacerbated the growth. Like it just kind of, you know, all of
In
a
a good way.
sudden everybody, yes, yes, in a good way. Even though COVID was not a good thing, it scared a lot of us, right? And then all of a sudden there's this need for convenience and kits and adding like making, or I should say packaging products more efficiently, and like people are thinking more about on the go. And I think Amazon is also a big reason because of that, because it's like if we didn't have people just shipping things all the time, they wouldn't they would be like, why would I ship this? I can just go pick it up. So
Very
what
true.
started to happen was, what's that?
I just said very true. Very true.
Yeah, it changed people's behavior. So we just started to see that, if we work on disposable products, it actually makes sense. And because it's categorized as a medical device, because there are things that are going to be used, um, like disposables that are going to be used in a hospital or in a clinic, and they're going to be used for a specific procedure, whether it's like a blood draw or um, an IV infusion, things like that, then people would definitely be interested because these were common things. Like if you ask someone what a blood draw is, most people know what that is. So we saw the opportunity of, okay, so it seems as though this is a real need. And now, because now there's mobile businesses and there's franchises now. I mean, before there was no such thing. People are breaking apart from the hospital and then just starting their own unit, which is crazy.
Do you think it's a more efficient approach or do you think it's more about convenience?
It's definitely cheaper, because I think the hospitals are so big and people are so unhappy. They're just spending a lot of money and it's not working anymore. Like a lot of people can't even get to a lab. Like it's not even just that, it there's no caretaker that's going to be available to take them to a lab. So they're like, "Why don't you just call us and we'll go to you?" And they're like, "Wait, really? That exists?" A lot of people are growing older and it's like, "What are we going to do with this population? Just tell them, I'm sorry, we can't go to your house. You have to come to us." And these are people that need to be monitored constantly. Like maybe they have a nurse. So I'm like, if you already have the nurse, why not just do the procedure in their house if it's something simple?
What do you think that the next growth stage is for you and your company in terms of is it expanding team or expanding geography or a separate product or more? I don't know if you've taken an investment. Maybe to speak a little bit to that thing. But yeah, what's the next stage for ArmHug?
Yeah, so definitely we are in the investment stage. We have gone through like due diligence. We work with investors. We've been really happy with that because they see the opportunity to, I mean, essentially, it's to continue to partner with people who are working on expanding the service industry, like the healthcare services industry. And that could be emergency medicine, that could be um, folks that are starting their own home care agencies. There's just a lot of people thinking, like, you know what? If we're not going to be working at a hospital, I could just start my own business and then have as many services, not as much as a hospital, but very close. It's amazing how people are, once they add one service and they've hired staff, it's not that hard for them to replicate it.
That's something that I think is pretty interesting, especially me with my entrepreneurial brain of thinking about opportunities and problems and what where things could
Mhm.
go. So the medical space in general, it's always felt like this mystery to me. It feels like it's
Right.
very messy and not as efficient, and it's kind of big power structures and big money and big insurance companies. What's an insider take on the medical industry from an entrepreneurial lens? Is it something that should be disrupted and broken apart? Is it actually more efficient and it just needs to be a little bit bureaucratic to work? Like what's your stance on it?
I think it's already happening. I think people are already kind of taking it upon themselves and saying, "But why can I do that? But why?" It's a lot of people just like standing up and saying, "But who said we can't do that?" Or it's like, "Why not?" So I think people are being more vocal about like um, the things that aren't working, and that's why the businesses are flourishing because a lot of the patients are actually agreeing with them. It really just goes down to um, are people buying this, and how else can we keep doing this? Like I just don't see um, regulatory officials just saying like, "Nope, we don't want this to happen anymore. Everybody just go to the hospital."
So it's almost
Especially if
yeah, it's almost as if you're saying it. Obviously, you need to be compliant. Obviously, you need to do what is in the best
right.
interest of the patient or the consumer, but don't worry so much about the status quo. If you can create value for someone, you can do it in a safe and healthy way. Go for it.
Yeah. Funny enough is that a lot of the people that do start healthcare companies aren't even in healthcare. They just are really good at one thing. Like they might be good at like funding or they might be really great at real estate. And they figure out ways to like use that to their advantage and they hire consultants to help. And try to figure out like, oh, well, you've worked in healthcare. Why don't you try to help us fix this? They're not 100% experts. It's amazing what you find when you start calling people and you start asking about their experience. And the only thing they've leveraged is their relationships. So really use those relationships. And then use the fact that you're the best expert in what you do. A lot of people are going to come to you and tell you that they're an expert or they're the best. And those are fun conversations, but also in reality, there's millions of people out here, and there's just so much that we need to improve, and it's already happening.
Do you think that this is going to be a new model and structure for healthcare, or do you think that the Nordics or Europe or kind of the rest of the world has a different approach to healthcare? Do you think that we're going to end up more like that model, or this is kind of a new, different structure that we're only just discovering?
I think this will be an addition. So I don't know if it'll replace what the big guys, used to do, but I think it will be an addition to it because it's already happening where I get phone calls sometimes from people who are like, I'm a new up and coming business. And as soon as they reach out to, like, let's say the small business services, and they're looking for contacts or they're looking for connections to either a lab or a clinic, they get calls from hospitals looking for their services. They're like, if we don't need to staff everybody here all the time and we just have somebody do the work for us outside and then bring it to us, we'd prefer that because it's cheaper on our budget. And since right now we're in an interesting time where it's like everybody's trying to cut corners, I think it is helping that people took it upon themselves to start a business and provide services that aren't being done in their community. It's kind of cool.
So are you finding that the current economic uncertainty, maybe a little bit of there's, Q4 of last year, Q1 of this year, definitely there's a lot more fear. Maybe it's a little better right now, but are you finding that that's actually an advantage for you as an earlier stage company that's kind of going against the status quo?
Yeah, because it's almost like they're unsure, so they're stagnant. And since all of us around are like, we can't just let people just not get the service they need. So we're gonna take it upon ourselves to try to figure it out. And then you guys will probably hire us anyway because we figured it out for you.
I love that. So what's the
It's
ideal exit? Do
crazy.
you want to have a slew of products? Do you want to be acquired by a larger medical device company? Do you want to turn this into a business that you can just run for the rest of your life and make sure you make a healthy profit and salary? What's the end goal for Hennesys?
Yeah, I feel like for me, it's definitely acquisition. Definitely get someone to, like, continue to grow the value of the business and then get someone to come in and take it from us because in part we're grinding and doing all the dirty work that they don't want to do. And then they start to see, well, oh, we don't have this yet. So maybe we can just take this swoop, and it becomes, and it'll be great because then they're servicing people that they probably already have in their network, but they're serving them in a different one.
What would you be doing? Say I introduce you to Acquire tomorrow. They give you a great valuation. They buy the device. Maybe there's a 6-month overlap. And then you have an open sky for whatever you want to do next. What does that look like? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, that would be great. So I love to write. I would definitely start writing more. I would like to publish for fun, like just writing fiction. That's something that I've been holding off, and sometimes I like make some time for myself to write, but um yeah, I feel like after doing all of this, at the end of the day, it's kind of like a creative, like, how would you say that? Um,
Maybe your outlet
just allowing
almost?
yourself to, what's that?
Almost your like creative outlet or something to kind of release
Yes.
that stress. That's wonderful. I think that, again, I talked with a lot of entrepreneurs and I have a bunch of entrepreneur friends. And I think most people have some type of almost therapy, if you will, where it's not what you do. It's very dissimilar from what you do. One thing that I recently got obsessed with, I got in touch with my inner child and started collecting Legos during the pandemic. And it's something I did when I was a kid, but getting back in, and there's just something very
Right.
therapeutic about very different than writing software. Yes, there's steps and procedures, but it's very different than writing software or running companies. So I highly recommend most people find something that's different and separate from what you do and ideally nourishing and filling you back up.
Definitely. That sounds awesome, yeah. Especially now that they have those kits where thousands of pieces. You could spend the whole day there.
Multiple days indeed. You touched on relationships, right? You touched on how even without medical experience or being in the medical sector, if you have relationships and you have a unique skill set, you can parlay that into the medical space or probably any space as an entrepreneur. How have you used your relationships to build a company?
Yeah. So typically when I'm looking to sell product or just learn about um, how can I get this product out there? How do I know who else needs it? I try to get to know some folks who are in this space who have used similar products or who have contacted us, and then find a little bit about like them. Who are they? I set up meetings. I always have an open Calendly for anybody to contact me. I don't charge for people to contact me and ask me questions. That's okay. Um, and essentially, what happens is I'm building a relationship. I learn a lot about what else is happening in the industry that I wasn't aware of. That maybe someone had an experience about. Like, oh, that's different. I've learned. I've also gotten referrals through those conversations. It's like, what's something I can help you with, and how, and then they help me with something, and I help them with something. So it doesn't always have to be like transactional, where it's like payment, like cash payment, but it could be maybe there's someone else that could help you. So I always end the conversation with, "What else can I do?" Or if there's anything I can do, let me know. Um, but I think it's definitely served really well. So, for example, like people love um, definitely promoting themselves and their products. So sometimes I even use the podcast as a way to have a discussion with them. It doesn't have to be purely promotional, but just trying to show them like, is do you mind if we have a conversation about this topic on the podcast to try to educate other people in the industry if you're willing to share? That's usually someone that I typically want to have a relationship with, someone who wants to share and like wants to educate people. Some people may not want to do that, and that's okay. Maybe that's not the right person to collaborate with. That's how I see it.
What about for those who might be a little bit more on the shy side, or maybe they're earlier in their career, they're not as confident? It's one thing if you have something to talk about, you have a product, a company. What if you don't really have
Right.
that? How do you get out there and get comfortable with
Yep.
building those relationships?
Yeah. I have had like private meetings with people because they're definitely camera shy, where they're like, "Is this normal? Like, am I supposed to just reach out to people? Is this what you guys do?" And I was like, "Yes, you have to reach out to people. People might reject you. It's okay. Like, maybe that's not the right client." Um, but for the most part, practice. So, for example, I used to be very camera shy, and I was like, "I'm gonna get rid of this. I'm gonna just record myself talking with other people," and it helped so much. I don't have this anxiety anymore, where I was just like, on camera," you know?
I love that. Yeah, I think
It's
I
just
think
practice.
exposure therapy is probably one of the most effective things, and I think for me, I've also seen that that applies to entrepreneurship and applies to
Mhm.
risk, decision making, relationship building, like you're talking about. But we all suck at most things in life. I mean, at some point, you didn't have experience, right? Unless you're a complete savant at age 8, you probably did not have experience in X. And the only way in which you get good at it is trying, failing, learning, trying again, failing, learning, trying. You're a little bit better. Maybe you're not as much of a failure at that task, and you learn and you just keep iterating. And I
Right.
love what you said. It was kind of, yes, it's supposed to be awkward. Yes, you're supposed to kind of just do it. And it's weird, but the fact that you were able to kind of conquer your camera shyness and you have a podcast now and it's successful. I mean, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah. I don't know if it's successful. I think it's just one of those things, I guess. I keep moving the goalpost. I always want to be better, but I appreciate it.
Do you think continually moving the goalpost is a something to be admired and emulated, or do you think it is never being satisfied is negative?
Right. That's one of the issues, right? It creeps up on you. Like you're like, I should celebrate this. Definitely. I sometimes catch myself doing that. Like I would say, oh, this is something you probably need to step away, maybe take a break, maybe go out and celebrate. Just you know, this small milestone. It doesn't need to be a huge milestone because that's what it is. We get stuck in our heads like it has to be this huge thing for me to celebrate. But the baby steps, like you've never done this before and you just did that. Celebrate it.
So kind of having the
It's I
balance
mean,
between.
unless you oh sorry.
No, I was just going to say, so it's the balance between kind of celebrating the wins, but then it sounds like you have a healthy amount of dissatisfaction too, which keeps you driving forward and not just being complacent with, well, at least I did it, or at least I hit X milestone. I guess I don't have to work as hard.
Yeah. Because then, I mean, right, what keeps you motivated? It's kind of like that next win. But don't put that win like it's so far out there that you're like then you become unmotivated and you're like, I need to quit because it's not happening.
How do you apply that to entrepreneurship itself and building a company? Are you focused on the journey or the destination?
Yeah. I thought it was destination, but it's not. It's not. It's been so cool to see just how much I've been able to do. I started keeping track because I like to write, right? So I started to write everything down and like do these monthly updates. And I'm like, there's just so much on here. And sometimes you need to see, I'm a visual person, so I need to see it, but it's like shocking. It's like, what? I'm doing all of this? I can do anything, right? Like you feel like
I love it.
I can
Yeah.
go do this. I'll find time to do that.
Um, and that starting aspect, you mentioned that you were unhappy with work, you were unhappy kind of with things that were going on. And that was, it sounded like that was the catalyst to kind of start on this journey. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I guess I was kind of shocked of where some leadership, like some leadership positions that were in the jobs that I was in were not like leadership positions I would have wanted. And then I found that it wasn't just me who thought that. And I figured like, well, maybe I would be a better leader one day. And I feel like definitely having the negative experiences taught me a lot about what things I shouldn't do. So I'm also grateful for them because I think it just showed a lot of like, man, there's things I never want to do or I don't want to be this kind of boss or I think there's flexibility like you don't need to be rude to people or you don't need to be um I don't know how to describe it. Like so I guess because it was healthcare and it was very and healthcare is very regulated, but there's like a way to do it. And I think now we're seeing it a lot with entrepreneurs where we're more community focused, more patient focused, more customer centric. We care and we're showing it constantly.
That's interesting. So it was almost out of having that negative experience, seeing the leaders not leading well, that made
Right.
you want to change the system.
Yeah. I think because there were a lot of people that, are still going to stay in that situation. But I figure like if you're a business and you're working adjacent with that company or you're working um, with other healthcare businesses, like You can't fix the culture, but at least you could be one more and you'll be better. I think that makes a difference.
Why do you think it is that often there are leaders that are just crappy people? And you can define that however you
Yeah.
want. But, you would think that the greats would rise to the top, the people who were compassionate and understanding. Why do you think it is? What is it about human nature that we end up elevating to power, to leadership, these people that sometimes, not always, are, in your experience, less than desirable?
Yeah. I think people really have to be competitive. They might corner them and might make them feel like, well, if you don't do this, you'll be replaceable. Or if you don't fix that. And too much of that, I think, just creates, um, I guess, more or less monsters. Because it's like, I don't want to work for that. Nobody wants to work for that. But they get the job done that they're supposed to. So, what are we doing here? Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good
What,
question.
I know you're still relatively early on building ArmHug, but say you're running a, 500 person company one day, you're at the top, you're uh, the bee's knees, and you've got your lieutenants on under you. How would you build a better leadership culture? What would you emphasize? Because as the point that you just made is that sometimes these jerks, let's just use a simple term, are more aggressive, but they do get things done. So how do you
Right.
balance? Yes, we need to get things done, but we also want to value these other aspects of being more conscientious and thoughtful with our leader.
Yeah, and to your point, value, right? That a lot of the people who come to me and say that, "Oh, I'm starting this business," it's because they were undervalued in their previous one. So I think definitely reminding people, like thanking them and telling them, regardless of what their previous situation was or what culture they came from, that here we're going to appreciate each other, like regardless of what your previous job was or your previous client treated you. Um, when I had to start relationships with a few of the people that I had to hire, there were culture differences. The way we interacted, of what was expected. Like if I send an email or if I make a call, like when is that person going to reply to me? Um, how quickly do they reply to me? How should I write an email that doesn't sound, like I'm upset or mad or just really stressed? But um there's like handbooks on this stuff. But what I learned was you never know what situation the other person is in, and you have to, especially when you're working with someone new, try to learn and understand, like, and make it clear what relationship you have with them. Because the worst thing is when you don't lay that down at the beginning, is that down the line they just kind of start to fade, or they don't respond anymore. They're not responsive. They're not, um, which I've also had to experience too. But um, I think overall, it's like it's always kind of keeping in touch with the people that you're with and just giving them a call and ask them, "How are you?" Makes a huge difference.
Again, tying it back to relationships. Relationships definitely. We are a species that loves connectivity and connectedness, and I completely agree with kind of building out, showing that you care and staying in touch. Do you think entrepreneurship is predicated on a bad experience or having suffering or having a crappy job or having a crappy boss? Do you think that that is necessary to give you the amount of inertial energy to change from what you're currently doing and say, I'm going to be so crazy, I might as well just decide to make a new company and I'm going to make something out of nothing? Do you think that's always essential?
So I don't think you need to start a company out of a negative experience. But I do think the media loves to tell us that. So every article is like, oh, this person's so mad at so and so. Now they're starting their own business and competing. And I was like, really? I think people who have great jobs or great bosses, like they're so lucky and like nourishing that. Like, or see how else you could grow with the business that you're in. Like maybe you could start a business. And I know a few friends who have. They've started programs and they've created businesses in the job that they are in. And they, down the line could be acquired from this side project that they were building. That's a great relationship. I mean, you have the person to acquire you and you have the business that you want. And there's opportunities like that. So then take advantage of that. Sounds awesome. But it doesn't have to always be from a negative experience. It just so happens that some of us definitely did have negative experiences, and that kind of fueled our fire to say, you know what, we could do it better, which is a good thing. Because if we didn't, right, and we'd still be in the same place we were.
Absolutely. Do you think that there are other entrepreneurial myths out there that are bandied about by the media because it's an exciting story, but are just myths about entrepreneurship?
Yeah, definitely. When I read it, I'm like, what? And sometimes people send me things, and I'm like, okay, who's the source on that? No, this isn't true. Because then people have this idea of what starting a startup is or entrepreneurship is. And they think, well, isn't this how it is? It's like, no, who says that?
What's
And there's,
the biggest myth that you've encountered many times from people you've talked to that you just look at, you read the article, you roll your eyes and you say, this is so not true.
well, that you're going to be like filthy rich and be on a yacht or go to the Bahamas like the Sam guy. Yeah. Like, not everybody is going to misuse capital this way. Now, if you want to do it that way, go for it. But you actually have to be really, how do you say, like, you have to plan. It's like you're planning your steps, especially when you don't have massive funding. Each step of the way is important and it's pre-planned. And even if it doesn't go as planned, then okay, what was plan B for this? And oh, B didn't work. C, D, E. Oh, we got something. Okay. We can still move forward now.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, I think that there is this kind of image of entrepreneurship is sexy. It's cool. You're going to lead an
Right.
exciting lifestyle. And then you start a company and you're like, I am broke. I am miserable. This is hard. I am alone. So I think
Yeah.
the part that you highlight though is like, you need that adaptability. You need to kind of have that plan. You need to try to work for that plan. You need to recognize that that plan will almost definitely fail. And so will plan B. And so will plan C. But you just keep going. And that's kind of the tenacity part that comes up. And I see it time and time again in entrepreneurs like yourself, where you encountered struggle and broken plan after broken plan, but you keep going. And that is one of the most admirable traits or stupid traits that entrepreneurs have.
Yeah. I mean, also, I think also while you're growing, right, things break. So you have to go back and think, oh, okay, well, this doesn't work anymore. Or it's like, oh, now there's this thing. Oh, AI, what's that? Oh, okay. So I just had a friend, she was calling me the other day and she was like, what is it with all of this AI stuff? And what? And I'm thinking, well, what's the concern? It just sounds like you fear AI more than what you know what it is. Right. I thought that was interesting. She was more going on and on about like AI. And I'm like, yeah, but what about it? So you're just scared because you don't know what it can do? And I was like, well, that's silly. But that's how she is. She's something else.
Have you spent much time thinking you're looking into AI yourself or maybe potential applications in the medical space?
Definitely. I think for video, AI is going to be great because there's like ways to build a lot of different formats, like not as high quality, but um, to start, the fact that you can take one video and you can make different clips of it and probably export it to different platforms. I was like, this is kind of cool. This would take forever if you had one person doing it. But if you just plug it into AI and the way it just spits out stuff, it's just bizarre. But I think it's going to help a lot of people.
I'm excited to see where
A
we
lot
end
of
up
folks
with
are,
all of it as well.
what's that?
I'm excited to see where we end up with it as well. It's we're living in very interesting times and era in human civilization.
Right. This is just the beginning, right? It's gonna write my emails soon, hopefully.
Very much, hopefully. I would be very happy if someone told me that I will never have to write another email. That would be delightful. And it says, if you wanted to leave our listeners with a parting thought or something to ponder or some advice to grow as an entrepreneur or someone who aspires to be an entrepreneur, what would you tell them and why?
To look inward, right? Look inside of yourself and see what about yourself do you want to improve? Because entrepreneurship is like a magnifying glass and it's going to show you your true colors and all the things that you've got to work through at a large scale. I don't know. I haven't, or I can't say I've learned more about myself without entrepreneurship. Like, I think it really did magnify a lot of the things I needed to work on myself. So if somebody wants to try it, like, go for it. But there's going to be definitely a lot of work that you're going to be doing on yourself. If
A lot of growth, a lot of introspection. Thanks so much for coming
Yeah,
on, Hennesys. If people want to find you online or in real life, where should they go?
in real life, definitely come to Buffalo, people. Come here. We've got some startup spaces. It's pretty cool. It's a fun group. Uh, and online, I guess I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. I think just most of the I don't do Twitter much, but that's where we are, and it's just ArmHug. You just look at ARMHUG arm.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful having you on the show.
Thank you. This has been fun.